Alright guys, so next video, let's talk about our 30-degree angles. Okay, so when we're investigating 30 degrees, our key degrees are 30 degrees, and then 150 degrees, 210 degrees, and then the last one is 330 degrees. Okay, the key radians to know for 30 degrees are pi over 6, 5 pi over 6, 7 pi over 6, and then 11 pi over 6. Those are our key radians. How do we count 30 degrees? So, the way that I count 30 degrees is I literally count by 30 degrees. Okay, or I count by pi over 6. So what does that look like? Well, if this first one right here is 30 degrees, or pi over 6, then if we went pi over 6 more, that's going to give us this angle right here. So if we went pi over 6 more, this is going to be 60 degrees, or 2 pi over 6, which is the equivalent to pi over 3, which we're going to talk about pi over 3 in a little bit, just not right now. You continue counting 30 degrees. 30 degrees more would take us to our 90-degree angle, so right up here. Okay, you count 30 degree more, that takes us to 120 degrees. Okay, so then this one would be 120 degrees. And then you count 30 degrees more, that takes us to our 150 degrees. Okay, so it takes a while to get to 150, but if you're just counting by 30s, then you can see. The reason that this 150 is the next one I want to get to is because this angle right here, the reference angle, is what creates a 30 degrees. So that's what we care about. How do we know it's a 30 degree in the unit circle? Is if the reference angle is equal to 30 degrees. Okay, so let's erase what we just drew right there. That was kind of just an idea showing you how I count. Okay. And let's just fill out the rest of these. So we have 30 degrees is our first one. So let's draw it. Notice it's the reference angle 30 degrees. So we draw that right triangle in there. Again, we've already drawn this first quadrant. Okay. So when we draw this, hypotenuse is 1. We go from hypotenuse to short side, we divide by 2. That's going to give us 1/2. We go from short side to long side, we multiply by radical 3, so that gives us radical 3 over 2. So that tells us that at this point right here, we have radical 3 over 2 in the x direction and 1/2 in the y direction. Okay, let's take a look at the next point. So if we wrap around the circle some more, this is our 150 degrees, or our 5 pi over 6. Okay, and then we draw this triangle here. So then you can look at this, and it says this is our reference angle. Right here is 30 degrees. So then when we build this, we have 1 out here. Again, we divide by 2 to get this one, the short side. Multiply by radical 3 to get the long side, so radical 3 over 2. But this time, again, we went left of center here. So imagine in the middle of our unit circle, we always have the point 0, 0. Right, so if we go to the left of center, what we have to do is we have to make it negative. So then the x value here is negative radical 3 over 2. The y value is 1/2. Okay, continuing on around the circle. So we're going to go up and around down to here. This is our 210 degree angle, also known as our 7 pi over 6. Okay, and then we can build this triangle here. And hopefully now you're starting to see the pattern that is getting generated by our 30 degrees. So our x value stays the same, negative radical 3 over 2. And then this time our y value, instead of 1/2, now it's going down, so it's negative 1/2 down here. Okay? And then the very last 30 degree angle, if we travel all the way around down here, we're going to get 330 degrees, or 11 pi over 6. Again, hopefully you're starting to see this pattern that's getting built out here. But if we draw this triangle in, we then have negative 1/2 because we went down, but we have positive radical 3 over 2 in the x direction. So then the point right here is radical 3 over 2, comma, negative 1/2. Okay, so then those are the points to our 30-degree angles in our unit circle. So notice, one thing that becomes super helpful in distinguishing 30 degrees versus 60 degrees is knowing which of these two values is bigger. Is radical 3 over 2 greater than or less than 1/2? Okay, that's the kind of question you have to ask yourself. So radical 3, the real question is 2 is the same. We're dividing by the same value. So then is radical 3 bigger than or smaller than 1? Well, radical 3 is greater than 1 because radical 1 is equal to 1. So if we have 3, which is bigger than radical 1, it would be greater than the 1 value, right? Radical 3 is almost radical 4, which is 2. So radical 3 is definitely bigger than the value of 1. Why is that helpful, knowing that radical 3, so radical 3/2 is greater than 1/2? Because look at the triangle. Look at the triangle. Clearly, the x distance that we travel when we look at the triangle is larger than the y distance that we travel. So without knowing these properties right here, if you haven't memorized that you need radical 3 over 2 and 1/2, you know your 30-degree angle is longer in the x direction. So longer in the x direction means that it's radical 3 over 2, and then shorter in the y direction means that it's 1/2. Okay, so hopefully you can start making those small connections on that. All right, that was our 30 degrees. So next we're going to take a look at 60 degrees. Okay, so with 60 degrees, let's use different colors. We'll use purple this time. With 60 degrees, our key angles or degrees are 60 degrees, 120 degrees. What's the next one? 180 to 40 degrees, and then 300 degrees. Our key radians are pi over 3, 2 pi over 3, 4 pi over 3, and 5 pi over 3. So how do I do these ones? Again, I either count by 30 or I count by pi over 6, honestly, because those are the two easiest ways to do this. Okay, so my counting method again, count by 30. So we go 30 here, and then 60 would take us here, right? So this is our 60 degrees. Add 30 more degrees to 60, you get 120 degrees. Nope, that's 90 degrees, sorry. Actually, I count by 60s, not 30s, so count by 60 and count by pi over 3, right? So 60 degrees would get us here. 60 more degrees gets us 120. 60 more degrees gets us 180. 60 more degrees past 180 gets us 240 degrees. 60 more degrees past that gives us our 300 degrees, right? So count by 60s. Definitely count by 60s for these ones. Or pi over 3, right? Because the first one would be pi over 3. The next one would be 2 pi over 3. The next one would be 3 pi over 3. The next one would be 4 pi over 3. The next one would be 5 pi over 3. So if you count by pi over 3s, that's also very quick. Okay, you can count by pi over 6 by all means, you could, but then you're just counting your 30-degree angles as well. So let's go ahead and let's just fill out these 60 degrees right here. So the first one that we have is 60 degrees, right? So if we go 60 degrees here, build this triangle. So then 60 degrees, the point, right, radius is still 1. Go to the short side, we divide by 1/2. So that gives us 1/2 here. Multiply by radical 3 to get the other side gives us radical 3 over 2 here. So then our value is 1/2, comma, radical 3 over 2. Okay. Continuing around our circle here, the patterns match exactly the ones that we've done earlier. Okay, so we go to our 120 degrees, right? Or this is 2 pi over 3 in other terms, right? That first one that we did was 60 degrees or just pi over 3. So if we go up here, remember we're always building the triangle closest to the x-axis. So our reference angle is 60, radius is 1. So again, on this side, we're going to have 1/2 because we divided by 2 to get here. But remember, it's negative 1/2 because we went left of center. We're going from the center and then we're going to the left. And then we come up to the long side, we multiply by radical 3, gives us radical 3 over 2. So then the point is negative 1/2 and then radical 3 over 2. All right, let's take a look at the next one. So the next one is coming all the way around to here, which that is 240 degrees or 4 pi over 3. So when we build this triangle, we're here, here. Again, we have negative 1/2 in the x direction, so then our x value is negative 1/2. In the y direction now we have negative radical 3 over 2, so then the y value of that point is negative radical 3 over 2. And then the last one for 60 degrees, we draw all the way around. So we're coming all the way around to here. This one is 300 degrees or 7 pi over 3. And then we build this right triangle out here. And we already have 1/2 labeled in the x direction, so it's 1/2. And in the y direction, we're negative radical 3 over 2. So common negative radical 3 over 2. And that would be filling out all of the 60-degree angles. Okay? So I do understand that this can be very weird stuff to do. Okay? So please let me know if you have questions. I actually just realized we forgot to fill out these right here on the left side, so let's do that. Sine of 60 degrees. So we look at our 60-degree angle. It's right here. Sorry, I'll use my laser pointer. It's right here. Sine is opposite, so opposite is radical 3 over 2, divided by the hypotenuse, which is 1. So that's going to give us radical 3 over 2, divided by 1, which is just radical 3 over 2. Cosine is going to be the adjacent side, which is 1/2, divided by the radius, which is 1. So that gives us 1/2. And then the last one, which is the tangent, is going to be the opposite side, so radical 3 over 2, divided by the adjacent side, which is 1/2. So then we have radical 3 over 2 divided by 1/2. To simplify this, it's radical 3 over 2 multiplied by 1, or actually 2 over 1, so those cancel, and you just get radical 3, right? Because we're talking about radical 3 over 2 divided by 1/2. Just real quick, looking at 30 degree angles, because I forgot to do these ones as well. Sine is opposite, so 1/2 over radical 3 over 2, so let's do that. 1/2 divided by radical 3 over 2. So this one's going to be a little bit more difficult, a little more work to do here. So we have 1/2 multiplied by, and then it gives us 2 over radical 3. So the 2's cancel. Wait, that is not right at all. What am I doing? Sine. Sine is opposite, right? So opposite is 1/2 over the hypotenuse, which is 1. So 1/2 over 1, which is just 1/2. I apologize for that one, guys. Cosine is the adjacent side, so radical 3 over 2 divided by the hypotenuse, which is 1. So radical 3 over 2 for cosine. And then the tangent is the hard one. Opposite is 1/2 divided by radical 3 over 2. So 1/2 divided by radical 3 over 2, and then we do some simplifying. So that's going to be 1/2 multiplied by 2 over radical 3, right? Dividing by a fraction is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal, right? So the reciprocal of this, radical 3 over 2, is 2 over radical 3. So you multiply that out, and you get 1 over radical 3. Well, 1 over radical 3 needs simplified, so radical 3 over 3. Radical 3 would give us radical 3 over 3 for the tangent of 30 degrees. All right. So that is filling out 30 degrees and 60 degrees. Again, if you have questions, please ask, guys. I know this stuff is a little bit weird. Okay. All right. I'm going to make one more video of the last 2 parts of this, and then we'll be done with the notes for today.